Hey, Marimar, it's Lauren. Thanks so much for coming back and doing another reading with me. I'm sorry that my voice is still not great. I have just been so sick, and it just hasn't seemed to get much better. But surprisingly, this is better than what it was. So we are going to take a look at each of these um, men and just get a sense of what's kind of going on with their energy and emotionally and what their intentions are. And just kind of understand how you can perceive that and move forward and maybe understand their underlying intentions so that you know how to make the best moves and just kind of what Louis, in a sense, like what's happened or like what's going on. Sorry, I know my voice is like really bad. Okay, so I'm kind of going to just connect with these cards really quick. I'm still kind of shuffling them and getting them situated. Okay. Okay, some stuff's coming up. So we're going to talk about Louis first. Um, and just see, I want to see what all pops up here. See if anything else flies out. How one feels important. Okay. Um, and I'm also going to pull an oracle card for advice on this one. Let's see. Sorry, I'm waiting for the right thing to jump out at me. I feel like it's one of these two. All right. So, just the general energy. So we have the Six of Swords, and let's see, these were pulled like this. Okay, so we have the Nine of Pentacles, the Page of Swords, and then the Two of Swords. Okay, so the way I see this is kind of twofold for me because one of the first things I see with the Six of Swords is the like general energy of the card or like the situation is that it does give like he's moving on. Like it gives like that like transitioning perspective or thoughts are transitioning into something else. And this is usually based on some sort of conflict that happened and it's implying that the conflict is like in the past, right? Or like something that previously happened. Um, the Nine of Pentacles is sort of that like reconsideration of whether this person would prefer to just be single and on their own. Like if their desire for a relationship outweighs going through relationship conflicts. One thing that I had mentioned about Luis in the last reading we did was that he had a very skittish and cautious energy. Like that was something I just kept picking up on that about this guy. And it was harder to get through his natural shields than Pedro's. So this usually is indicative of someone who isn't like transparent, like their energy could be ambiguous, like they're hard to read, right? And that's like a natural defense that they have. So that's what I'm getting from this, like these two cards. And then the Page of Swords is kind of like this new thought. Like sometimes it can be intrusive or it's based on information that was given. And that's the central card that's right below the general card. So I have a feeling that, yes, when you brought up the topic that you had mentioned about the like what he physically does on his own time. Um, and I think that was related to social media. I can't recall if I'm getting that exactly right. But that to him, he took that as odd, right? Like he took that as not sure how to really approach that. And he, before you guys started talking more regularly, he had a pretty stable energy about himself. Like he had, even though I picked up on the last reading that he's someone who keeps himself very busy. He's, individualistic. He does have like his own life. He has things that he are just for him. So for him to approach a relationship is always coming from this viewpoint of, is this a valuable person to divide my time with? Because I will have to sacrifice some things that I'm already very invested in my own life or like things that are for my own development. So it's always that like contesting between the two things in terms of time and resources and investment, right? Because again, Pentacles are going to be all about that. So the Page of Swords is like, he definitely, it was, I think for him, very out of the blue. I think it was unexpected in some ways, and it made him start to question certain things. Um, so the Two of Swords, it seems very literal. Like there is no intention for him right now because the Two of Swords is him outweighing the two decisions, right? It's, do I want to keep pursuing and seeing this person, and kind of forgive the conversation and, um, is this something that because to him, that's a red flag, right? So he's like, is this red flag indicative of more red flags? Because typically in the beginning of a relationship, there's this honeymoon phase and things are like typically really great. So then to kind of like encounter something like that early on, it makes him question, right? I truly don't think he's made a decision as of right now. I don't think that he is like kind of stringing you along and he just doesn't want to let you down, or he's hoping that you'll lose interest so that he doesn't have to be back. I don't get that impression, but I am going to pull signifiers. So for him, the Hermit, okay, and that's his star card too. So like that's just typical because I think you said he's a Virgo, right? So like that's very typical Virgo. Like they analyze quite a lot, and I just get the sense that he probably goes back and forth where he's like, well, if she had a past instance in a relationship where, another guy really hurt her, I can kind of understand her also being cautious and on guard. But then he's also kind of like flipping that script and thinking about it in terms of the inverse as well as like, well, I don't want to have to pay for the sins of her past relationship. That's a little more than I want to take on. And he's trying to have these like actual like honest conversations internally. So there's a lot that's not being said. I do feel like for the most part, based on what you told me, I think he's being pretty mature about um, how he has approached it because he was honest with you and saying like I need time to like think. I just need to take some space. I feel like that's a mature way to go about it. But if we were to look at your signifier, so we have it as the Eight of Pentacles reversed. And that typically shows like being so and I'm sorry, I know like I used to like always hold up the cards, but I get that as like you were starting to get very invested in him. And so that was the reasoning for you prompting your question of, hey, like I kind of just need to know some things because I'm the type of person when I date or when I get like invested in someone, I tend to get very, very invested and go very deep. And so I have worries about certain things and I don't want to overstep, in terms of like how I am investing my time as well. But the reversal is indicating like one, you're nervous about continually putting work and investment in this relationship with him just because one, you've just lost interest. That the situation also gave you the ick inversely. He got the ick from you, and his response gave you the ick. So now you're like, I don't know if I want to continue to invest in this guy because I was being very vulnerable when I was, trying to ask him this question. And the fact that he now is like taking all this time and space, it's just giving somebody who can't be solid and provide or be someone who is a little bit of my rock. So in that way, you guys might be incompatible. Like there might be an incompatibility there. Um, so that's kind of showing like the intentions. Like what's interesting is that this energy comes off as very disinterested, but I think it's more of a statement about him than it is about you. So these cards off the bat give me that like you're more disinterested in him than he's disinterested in you at the moment. If I were to go into like intentions, like or like feelings, um, so feelings, Ace of Pentacles. So it's kind of like that could be withdrawing an offer or that can be an offer that feels like a burden, right? So like the feeling is, yeah, I'm I'm kind of, this is a big decision, so I want to like make sure that I take time and space to really understand the ramifications and possible consequences. That's typical Virgo. They scenario drive everything. So that is what that's giving to me. In terms of intentions, as of right now, his intention is to, again, take more time to pull back. I think what he's also worried about, this could also be something about a past relationship with him, is that he might have been with someone in the past where every time they had an issue or a conflict, that partner had to always go like straight in and like, we're going to fix this right now. And like, you don't get time to process. And it's like this very intense energy. And I think it's created a type of communication style with him in which he doesn't want to hurt other people, but it's almost to the point where he's being really enigmatic and not saying what needs to be said. So I do think, now that I pull these cards, I also get the sense that you both maybe are on the same level of disinterested at this point, just because there's so many layers that are impacting both of you that neither of you are aware of. Um, I hope that humanizes him a little bit because I truly do think he really cares about not hurting your feelings at all. Um, and that's why there's like this kind of taking space because sometimes with space we have time to like have a better perspective and time does heal things. So I think by creating that space, that's sort of what he's trying to do. And I think he's also trying to make sure that like he's not being emotionally driven. But the fact of the matter is that he's also like just in the state of analyzing that he's not like being decisive either. And it's just very, it's a difficult situation. Okay, so your feelings are that you really liked him, right? Like your feelings are like you wouldn't have asked a question like that to him if you didn't like him and see potential in that relationship. So, and I think for you, this is like, even though you're disinterested, you're open to pursuing things and making something work. If he were to come forward and be like, hey, I think we both had things to apologize for, but I think that I let my fears kind of like cloud being there and present for you, right? I feel like if he were to come and say that, you'd be like open because Marimar, see you as a very forgiving person. I think sometimes to your detriment, but it is a great gift that you have. So I do feel like you're at this state, even though you're disinterested and kind of pulling back, you would still be open to investing in, in him further if you guys could come to like the same page and equal understanding. But intentions, high priestess, right? Seeking outside clarity. Like this is usually the card for like going to see a tarot reader or something, right? Like that's your intention. Like I want more clarity. Once I have more clarity, I can move forward. And this is kind of like sometimes a high priestess reverse can be like, I don't want to leave it up to fate. I don't want to put the decision in his hands, what happens. I want to be in control and the decision be in my hands because I feel like in you know, a lot of past circumstances, I tend to kind of let things play out too long, or I tend to always let the other person kind of like impact my energy in my life. So I totally am on board with that in terms of intentions as well. So what I have for outcome is the devil reversed, and that's an interesting card. Um, I actually want to clarify it because mm, that's like really interesting. There's a couple of different interpretations that could have. What I'm getting from this though, so Devil reversed, Four of Cups reversed, Five of Wands reversed. I think you both will maybe try to slip back to being platonic, or try to keep things very like, I don't want to say no strings attached, because if this were upright, I would get that sense of like this could subvert into like a like friends with benefits. And honestly, I don't think he's the type. That's what I'm getting. I don't think he's the type to be a friends with benefits type of guy. Um, but the devil reversed is kind of like one, it's resisting temptation. So that's one of the main meanings of the cards. It's like breaking chains or resisting temptation, taking the high road. It's kind of like that type of energy. And this card is strongly linked with Saturn and with Capricorn. So this is talking about trying to be mature and responsible, like doing what needs to be done instead of, what we just desire to do. So it could be that you both say, just together or like, separately, that although both of you are seeking a partnership and seeking a relationship, it's really important that it's something that is a match and makes sense and not just like continuing to like engage and go deeper into a relationship just because you both individually desire that. It has to be like you both desire a relationship with each other. That's what I'm getting from that. Because the Four of Cups reverse can also be a revelation of gratitude and realizing what you have, or taking space for self valuation. And then the Five of Wands is like I don't want to fight, right? Like the Five of Wands is like I refuse to like pick up a weapon and go in. Like I don't want to get caught up in petty things. Like I want to like get to the real root of um like outside of this particular instance that kind of gave the like exchanging of the ick. It's like you both wanting to like absolve yourselves from immaturity and like try to make the best decision possible with the information that you have. I mean, if I were to, I feel like you guys won't pursue a relationship further. That's what I'm getting, because the devil upright would be this like commitment, you know what I mean? Because that's Saturn. Saturn's like all about commitment and being very convicted. So this shows that you both feel too ill at ease right now for you to healthily enter a relationship with one another. I really do love like some of the energy of these like surrounding cards, and I really do love how both of you are approaching this, even though it is showing some incompatibilities. I think that there is a possibility that you guys could circle back around to making things work if you take that time and space, because you both have similar tendencies and I think you both want similar things. So I think it is something that could work. It's just that it's kind of like letting things go, letting things heal. Like I think like you both have similarities that could work. I do think there are some incompatibilities there, but to be fair, that happens in like every relationship. Every relationship has incompatibilities. For example, one thing in, about my husband is that my husband is too prideful sometimes, like egregiously so. And sometimes it makes it to where he can't see where he did something wrong, or he'll defend something even though he knows he was wrong. Or like sometimes he can feel like superior to other people because he's got Leo moon, and that's Leo moon, right? And I have a completely different moon placement. So that's where some incompatibilities can show up. But for the most part, we have more compatibilities than incompatibilities. So I think in some ways it's a shame, because I think for the most part you guys might have more compatibilities than incompatibilities, but an incompatibility showed itself early. And this is like that tragedy of timing, right? That tragedy of like if you guys met at a different time or had, healed from past baggage a little bit more, like this could have been something that really worked. As of right now, I'm going to say you guys don't pursue anything further. That's what it's giving me. But the reason I don't want to give a definitive statement on that is because he is really still in this decision-making mode. Honest to goodness, I do not think this is one of those times where he has, like, this is what a guy that's like, yeah, I've wrote her off, but I feel in some ways possessive, or like, and like, I don't want to like give something up, or you know how some people are. So, they wait for the next best thing to come along, and then once the next best thing comes along, they kind of like ditch what was there previously. Kind of reminds us of someone we know, right? So yeah, that's what I have to say about Louise. Let me look at these advice cards and see like what came up that makes sense. Okay, so we got perfect acceptance, and then we also have merge with the flow, serendipity. So I think just allowing this to ride out, that is the best thing you can do in this situation, especially if you show maturity to him and like, hey, the whole situation, we'll look back on this and laugh and think it was really silly. I'm happy to still have you in my life. I think you're a great person. I don't have any hard expectations. I'm sorry if I offended you. Like that kind of like I think if you kind of extend the olive branch, there could be something, this relationship has potential to develop into something deeper. But right now, the way the energy is giving, I don't think it will. But also, perfect acceptance is kind of like this could be a nod to like accepting that like a mistake was made or accepting like, not feeling like you have to shame yourself for what happened. Because I think that's also not a healthy approach. So like just kind of like having that ability to just go, yeah, that was unfortunate. It happened that way, but I don't necessarily regret what I did. I did what I felt was right for me. I may make a different decision in the future, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting from the advice cards. Um, so, um, oh, and I think you had asked previously you saw a picture of Luis with a girl, and I'll just see if there's anything there. I don't feel like there is, but because I said if the next best thing comes along, I'm kind of interested now, just to kind of like see. And I won't dig too deep because I don't know this girl. So I'll just generally ask if he's talking to someone else. That girl, I think, was a girl he liked, but something happened. Or there is a girl. I think he's coming from a similar situation as you, where he had somebody and he was like really hurt in that relationship. Um, yeah, Ace of Swords, Death card. I think, you know, I wonder if he confessed his feelings either to that girl in the photo or another girl, but got rejected. And so, like, he didn't date for a while and he got very cautious about like dating. And I think he is very fragile. I think that he is more fragile than one might expect. Um, and so I think that he's very sensitive. I am very curious, by the way, Miramar, if depending on how things go, you don't have to commit to anything right now, but I would be very interested, and I would do it for like 50% off of like doing a synastry of you two, like we did with Pedro, because I'm very curious what this guy's chart is. Like I'm very, very invested now because I'm picking up on all these things and like he doesn't seem like a bad guy. Like I don't get bad energy from him. Whereas I'm not gonna lie, I've always gotten a weird feeling from Pedro. I always have. But it's my job as a tarot reader to try to remain objective and try to not like put my own bias or like my own emotional or energetic response into the reading. That's what the cards are for. Because I don't need cards to be able to read, but the cards keep me objective, right? So, um, yeah, I don't get bad vibes from him. I just get vibes like he's flawed just like anybody else. So, um, but that girl specifically could be an ex, or she could be someone he is friends with but developed feelings for, but she never developed the same feelings for him. That's what it gets me. So, um, so let's see. I'm also just gonna wait for more flyouts for Pedro, and let's see what comes up because the cards have been flying today. Oh God, what is he up to now? God, I'm sorry. I saw the Knight of Pentacles reverse, and I was like, oh jeez, it never ends. Okay. Oh, that one was attempting to fly. Okay. That's interesting. I just want to see if anything else comes up. Got anything else about Pedro? Pedro. You know something else about Pedro. Unfortunately, Pedro is one of those men that does give Sagittarius men, such a bad rap. I think it was Sag, right? He has a stellium in Sag. I don't think I saved his birth data, but I know he had strong Sagittarius placements. Okay, so we had this, this, we'll do like this. Okay, what in the literal, oh, Pedro. Okay, I'm gonna say something that might be out of pocket, but I'm gonna try to clarify it before I go into it. Because again, I've been reading about Pedro for so long now, and I get the same type of vibes from this man every single time. And I have given him his due when it's deserved. I really have. Because I do remember previously going, hey, I'm actually really surprised to see this because I thought, right? So tell me why, and tell me if you see this pattern about him, because I have someone in my life that does this to me. And when you start to realize the pattern psychologically, it will make you upset. So bear with me. Knight of Pentacles reversed. Tell me if you notice a pattern with Pedro where he always reaches out to you when something is going wrong in his life. And what I mean by that is that like he may not be saying like outright when he comes to reconnect with you, oh hey, this situation happened, but you'll hear through the grapevine or hear through someone that like, oh, Pedro went through like, oh yeah, he got in this car accident, oh yeah, his girlfriend had to give him money, or oh, you didn't hear that he wasn't able to travel because I got in a fight about his kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like every time there is a conflict or something going wrong in this man's life, he runs to you for a safe space, which is so aggravating because the implication of that type of behavior is maddening because it's essentially his way of saying like you and I'm not saying like this is exactly what he's thinking, and try not to take this like heavily like this is exactly the way he perceives it. I think it's unconscious. What it's unconsciously implying is that you're not good enough for me to commit to full time. Like you're not the one, you're not the it girl, you're not the ideal for me, but you're good enough for me to use as emotional therapy. And I just it makes me upset. It really does. It really, really does. I think consciously he doesn't realize this though. I don't think he realizes this pattern. Most of the time they don't, because most of these men that are like this are completely delusional in terms of their own self-awareness and being able to like actually see how their behavior is perceived to people outside of themselves. And so they will make a lot of proclamations like, I'm a nice guy. Most of the time they're not nice guys. Like i'm I'm someone loyal and committed, and yeah, I make mistakes, but no, like they typically, these guys don't want to take accountability. And this could be women too, but just in this instance, it's something I've noticed specifically with men. So the seven of cups reversed can talk about right now emotionally he's not feeling like all the potential he has, and that there's like so many like things that he can do, like being very productive and like hopeful for the future, and kind of like trying to narrow down from all these possibilities. This can talk about like emotionally feeling really stunted or feeling like you're kind of like locked in. This can also talk about clarity though. Like sometimes this card can talk about like a revelation of like realizing something emotionally. And this might not be that like, because sometimes the Knight of Cups is like proclamations of love. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily in this case like we take it quite like that, but I think it's like this proclamation internally for him that like Marimar has this emotional quality that my current partner doesn't have, and I'm like starting to realize that the longer I'm with this woman that I'm with. And so instead of, maybe like trying to rectify or remedy that, he just tries to connect with both of you when he needs it. he leans on her for stability. But the moment that it doesn't come out the way that he intends it to or visualizes, he goes back to you for that emotional connection. And it's just very odd to me. It's a very odd behavior. A Six of Cups reversed can, one thing I will say about these two cards connecting is that I do think in some ways he is trying to extend an olive branch, because if the Six of Cups was upright, I think that would be a statement that, like he was thinking about you and like remembering all your happy memories, and like he's trying to get some of that back. I don't think that's actually the case here. So I think there is something innocent about this. Again, I'm trying to relate to his conscious mind, right? Like consciously, he really does feel like he's just wanting to connect as a friend. And he was trying to withhold things that shouldn't be shared with you. He's trying to, in some ways, he's consciously trying to do the right thing. I just think unconsciously the motivations are a little bit more nefarious. That's what I think. So the Knight of Wands is him trying to keep everything afloat and trying to create some boundaries in his life and trying to be very protective. So again, kind of like not talking about his current relationship, trying to keep that separate from his connection with you. So in a lot of ways, I can see like where his mind is going with this and like what it is he's trying to achieve. But the reason why, the true the reason why I feel a certain type of way about this whole thing is because I don't like the combination of the Knight of Pentacles reverse with the Magician. This lineup on its own would be much more positive if it weren't for this Knight of Pentacles reverse. This card bothers me because essentially I think that he gets a high from your responses to him, like your engagement with him. And that's the Magician. The Magician is somebody who can be verbally or communicatively a manipulator. This card does have positive implications, but even upright, you can have negative implications of being a schmoozer or being someone who's a sweet talker, someone who like presents like this, every time he comes back into your life, like you, it's kind of like you drop everything and kind of like respond and engage immediately. And he loves that. And I'm telling you, because I've read so much on him and his ex now for quite some time, her reaction and her energy is very different from yours. You are somebody who I feel is a lot more fluid and emotional and sensitive and very engaging and relationship driven. She's much more about materialism, physical security. She's much more fixed and rooted. So she does not waver with him the way that you do. And that is why I feel like this energy, I don't like it. It feels off to me. But I will say, if I'm being objective and not going off of just if I put that to the side and just try to give Pedro space and like to humanize him, I truly do think he is trying to do the right things and how he connects with you. I think consciously that is absolutely his intention. It's just there's this underlying thing that psychologically he doesn't know, like doesn't recognize. So if we were to say, if we were to go with that interpretation, I don't think he's necessarily guilty of anything, and I don't think he's trying to be weird, and I don't think he's trying to, two-time his partner. I don't think any of that is his intention, at least as of right now. But there is something unconscious there that I don't like. I just don't like it. I'll pull some more cards in a moment, but I want to see if there's an advice card that kind of comes out. Sorry, kind of comes out of the woodwork for me. Um, oh, okay. So we'll talk about this in a minute, but the advice card is resilience, burn away the past. And I think maybe that's what he's trying to do. I'm not sure. But if I were to, um, so let's pull for him. Okay. So I did him hurt you. So this is the Ten of Swords, and this can talk about the fact that I think they did have a fight or a disagreement. That's typically what the Ten of Swords is. It's when you say something, when you're having an argument and it's building, and it could be something that was built on other instances that happened, right? So it's not like this was the first time something cropped up and the person just absolutely blew up. This is usually like from a pattern of things happening over and over and over again, and like that person either trying to take the high road and like swallow it down, or that person gently kind of saying, hey, I don't like this, hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable, hey, that's weird, right? So when you, by the time you get to the Ten of Swords, like you are at your limit, and you say something in anger, or you say something out of being melodramatic that you can't take back. And so the Six of Pentacles for him is kind of talking about this, like it is sort of this. So when Six of Pentacles is upright, this is talking about generosity, giving, a charitable nature, um, you know, balancing what's mine and yours. It has this like there's a there's a good word for it. Equity. It's being equitable. So when it's reversed, it's this pulling or reversal of those things. It's like retreating into yourself, leaning back into greed, stubbornness, being self-involved, self-focused, like not focusing on the needs of others, focusing on your own needs. So, and again, this is like a stabilizing card, right? Like that stability that links back with this Nine of Pentacles reversed, right? And so, Knight of Pentacles reversed also talks about impulsivity as well. So it could be like his decision to reach back out to you was like literally impulsive because he had just had a fight with his girlfriend. And then the Ten of Pentacles for you is like you're moving on and getting into a stable place, and then look who comes knocking, right? But I will say is that the energy of these cards are obviously compatible because they're of the same element. So it could be that you both are on, in some ways, there is this mutual giving and receiving of energy. And so the giving nature of this card could be relating to you, whereas he's pulling away the giving investment to his partner. It's just, it is what it is. So if I were to look at the shadow of the deck, judgment, okay? So a big, big reveal or decision is likely going to come up here soon. Five of Cups reversed. So this could be two things. This could be you emotionally understanding what this reading is saying and maybe agreeing with it. And so it's not like you're fully grieving and like experiencing loss, but it's kind of like that, oh, that's kind of a bummer, right? Like that really sucks, you know. But this could also be potentially they break up and get back together. That's if it were upright, I would see it as the judgment card is predicting that they will fully permanently break up. I think they may separate or they may like there may be something coming up. And it may not be something that's happening right now because you said, oh, I believe they're doing well. So like that's what they're presenting on the outside. In terms of that, the fool, I mean, that could just be like, I promise I'll change. I promise I'll do better. Or we're trying something new, right? So um to the outside, it's showing that like foolish whimsy, right? It's like they're not revealing the deeper parts of themselves. And I think from what you mentioned too, maybe she doesn't have a ton of social media presence, or she's not like very out there with what's going on in her life. So I think that is kind of, she could be telling him like, don't reveal things about us online. Like get rid of that stupid Twitter account. Like stop like posting things like, that air out our dirty laundry. That could be what that means. In terms of like outcomes, like coming up, like Seven of Pentacles, this is kind of like, I think for the most part, things will remain as they are for now. Um, there is a chance to reap some kind of reward, or there's something to be had, like a lesson to be learned or something to be received from this for you. I think this is going to be knowledge, if I were to guess, knowledge or insight. Queen of Cups reversed, the Hierophant. I think what's growing though for you is growing in your self development and growing in your emotional intelligence. But I also think, you know, the growth could be you moving on to a more harmonious relationship and not kind of like investing in him. Like that's what I think and see, which I think is really positive because again, I'm not trying to vilify Pedro and say he's this like god awful person. He's a human just like anyone else and he has positive traits and qualities. Like that is absolutely true. I just really don't like the way he is in relationships. I don't like the way he behaves specifically. It feels like a game, like the way I read it. It just feels like a game where he's constantly looking for that next fix. It's bothersome because it's fine if it's a game when it doesn't impact anybody. But the fact of the matter is that his relationship with you has impacted you and your daughter, and his relationship with his current partner impacts him and her daughter, or her child. I don't remember if it's a daughter or not, but yeah, I think you just need to keep moving on. And it's hard because you and Louise had this negative interaction. And so, of course, when Pedro shows back up, right? Like he just pops into the picture and it's a way to divert or distract you. And you need to not let that man distract you from what it is that you need to be doing. I definitely still see potential for you to have, you know, a like great rewards if you can remain steady in in being true to yourself. And if being true to yourself is truly like wanting to entertain and be with Pedro and be his friend, don't let it be me that stops you because there's no judgment here, right? Like it's whatever is truly best for you, and you're the only one that can proclaim what is best for you. But I will say that your spirit guides and your ancestors are definitely pleading with you to keep moving on and keep doing what you're doing because they are deeply supportive of that. Also, the Hierophant card is giving indications that there could be a really big or like pivotal event relationship wise that happens for you in May. I can't indicate exactly what that is at this time, but there is definitely potential that there could be like a really like monumentous or really rewarding event that happens during that time. So that's what I'm going to leave you with, but let me know if there's anything I didn't get right or anything that I need to go back over, but I do need the rest of my lungs, or else I'm going to like have to go back to the doctor. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much, and I hope that I hear more from you soon. Thanks. Bye.